Progressive house in 2004 could have been way better if producers had figured out one simple thing that's very common today. Hi, I'm Calvin Bliss, a progressive house producer, and today we're diving into how the sound of the genre has transformed over the last 20 years. I'll keep this quick because I've got a project to get back to. Nick Warren, one of the genre's pioneers, was dropping heat back in the day. Check out Every Day, his track with Way Out West, released in 2004. Back then, the tools were way more limited, both in terms of capability and how tricky they were to use. But believe it or not, there's something these early producers did better than some of today's artists. I'll get to that in a minute. Now let's look at one of Nick Warren's recent collabs with Nicholas Rada, their remix of Martin Freide's Edison 5, released in February of this year, 2024. Can you hear how the sound has evolved over the last 20 years? There's an obvious change. I'll give you a hint before I reveal it.
More cowbell!
While you're thinking, let's talk about a more subtle shift, the synth sound. Modern synthesis is a lot more advanced, allowing us to create more complex, interesting textures. There's also way more layering and effects, making the tracks feel immersive, like you're stepping into a whole world where every sound interacts. Now back to that big change I mentioned. We didn't actually need more cowbell.
I got a fever!
But we did want more percussion. If you listen to tracks from 2004, you'll notice they had fewer percussion elements. You'd get the main drums, a hi-hat, maybe some toms, and the occasional cowbell. In today's tracks though, we layer tons of percussion. Shakers, multiple hi-hats, claves, and deeper sounds like djembes or bongos. These elements create a fuller, more hypnotic rhythm. You may not always consciously notice them, but they pull you deeper into the groove. Keep in mind, I'm not hating on the music from 2004. What producers like Way Out West did back then was incredible. They worked magic with limited tools, crafting songs where every sound served a purpose and had to shine on its own while supporting the other sounds. Their music was full of organic, rich textures that still hold up today. In many ways, they were masters of maximizing what they had. Alright, here's the biggest innovation that could have made progressive house in 2004 way better. Layered bass lines. Back in 2004, producers generally treated the bass like a rock band would. One bass line played by one synth, designed to be as funky and catchy as possible. A few producers experimented with adding accents, but it wasn't widespread. Today, one of the coolest ways to craft a bass line is by layering multiple synth-based sounds. We're talking 3, 4, or even more, all working together to create a groovier, more futuristic vibe. This was totally possible back then, but for some reason, producers just hadn't figured it out that well. Done right, this adds a richness and infectious energy that's become a hallmark of modern progressive house. It's becoming the new standard, and I bet it'll be everywhere in the future. Next time you're listening to a track, focus on the bass line and see if you can pick out those individual layers. Progressive house has come a long way since 2004, and I can't wait to hear where she goes next. Who knows what 2044 will sound like? One thing's for sure, this genre is here to stay.